It's that time of the year where Stokvel members are smiling all the way to the bank. Stokvels have evolved from being simple saving schemes into serious investment plans. According to the Stokvel Association of South Africa, Stokvels contribute about 50 billion rand a year. Now, to speak to us about the evolution of Stokvels and the dangers that come with being a member, I'm joined by Busi Skenjana, who's the founder of Stokvel Academy. Busi, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. As we said, it's the time where Stokvel members are reaping the rewards of their labor throughout the year of saving. Is the Stokvel culture still rife in South Africa?
Yes, thank you for inviting me, and good evening to your viewers. Definitely the Stokvel culture is still rife. It's just that obviously it is evolving. There's the then, there's the now, and we are looking forward into the future. But there's pretty much still the sameness. People are still doing the same things, which some of them are good, some of them are extremely dangerous. But yes, Stokvels, I think, are here for as long as we are alive, especially as Black South Africans.
I mean, you've been in the Stokvel space for decades now, and saying that it's changed and evolved over time, and some things stay the same while some things are a little more dangerous, which we'll touch on a little later on. What are you seeing as some of the things that you can highlight as extreme changes from the times that you entered into Stokvels to what you're seeing other people, or possibly what you're involved in within Stokvels now?
My observation is that obviously Stokvels originally were more about the social cohesion, Ubuntu, helping one another, especially in the event of death. That is why there's more burial Stokvels. And that got into the level of grocery Stokvels, which is still fair enough because, as mothers in particular have to take care of the basic needs at home. But the Stokvel generation is becoming, I wouldn't say younger. The younger generation in the Stokvel is looking into other opportunities in terms of, creating wealth for themselves. And I'm emphasizing not younger because Stokvel were started by younger people. The perception is that Stokvels is just for abo gogo, abo mkhulu, or abo auntie. And they've always been younger. It's just that is the difference. What is different is what is happening now. So yes, there is a desire, there is, a curiosity to find out what are the better ways of investing, their money. There's still a gap in terms of education, but there is a movement. Stokvels are definitely not static.
And within that movement, speaking of this generation that's sort of looking at Stokvels from a different eye, how are they using Stokvels in building this wealth?
Look, the basic is to form a Stokvel with a group of friends, colleagues, neighbors. That would be the basic. And I don't see much changing in terms of the how of it. The only difference is that what are you doing with that money? We still have the older generation type, even if though they are young, who would still collect money on the table. It exchange hands, umgalelwano, umholiswano, that is still happening. Even some of the younger generation, especially in the rural areas, because that's what they grew up seeing their mothers, their grandmothers doing. But to find the younger generation who are beginning to question and say, okay, what are the better ways of investing money? And of course, there's minimum cash exchange within the younger generation. So, yeah, as I indicated earlier on, there is sameness in terms of what do we do with the Stokvel money. We are saving for a specific goal, and that specific goal is defined by us as a Stokvel, irrespective of our age group.
I mean, those specific goals could range between, like you say, saving for groceries, but with the younger generations, we're seeing more people going into property Stokvels, holiday Stokvels, in order for you not to feel the pinch when you want that asset or when you want to enjoy that holiday but not having the cash ready on hand. Speaking of cash, we see a lot of Stokvels, especially during this time of the year, being invaded by thieves when there's that distribution of money. Is there a change in how, with cash Stokvels, how they then distribute the money so that they don't find themselves where people are coming in and taking money from them on those days that they distribute?
Unfortunately, not much seemed to have changed, because we are reading about this. I mean, it's in the social media. I had actually a very shocking experience 3 weeks ago. I was invited by one Stokvel in Soweto just to go and advise them as to how can they improve their Stokvel. And literally within that meeting, the old lady who was hosting that meeting lost 2,000 rands, because they were actually going to share, the contribution was coming to her. And she just put it somewhere in the bedroom, and there were grandchildren in the house, and it just shocked me. I couldn't believe it, because I was actually asking them, why in this day and era are you still, exchanging cash within your Stokvel meeting? And they said, it's nice to feel that, to touch that money, But yes, unfortunately, still happening. Even in work, there are Stokvels that work together in a workplace. There's a Stokvel that was recently robbed. They were sharing their money, I think, in a basement somewhere at work. And yes, that is caused by inside information. But the big question is, why is there still so much cash that is circulating within the Stokvels when there are better ways of, transferring money amongst themselves as a group?
And even with the younger people who have found different ways of distributing that money or contributing that money. I mean, we've seen lately on social media with the young lady who allegedly started a Stokvel at the beginning of the year, promising payouts and vouchers with regards to groceries, people having contributed, and now allegedly she's gone AWOL with over 300,000 rands worth of Stokvel money. How important is education when it comes to Stokvels? Because she's recently allegedly put out a statement earlier today saying, no, it wasn't 300,000 rand. In fact, it was only 130,000 rands, and some people have already gotten their contributions. So, I mean, that transparency within Stokvels for people to be able to know and be educated as to how much money is sitting in the bank account, who is eligible to be able to move that money around. How important is that education?
It is extremely important. That's the reason why I started the Stokvel Academy, because there's a lot of talking about Stokvels. Almost everyone knows what a Stokvel is, but there's a huge gap in terms of education. And one of the most important things to look for is to actually avoid, just investing on someone because this person is the clever one. There are regulatory bodies that control, the movement of cash, amongst us as a society. If a person says, look, I've got this voucher system, who are you? Who are you registered with? There's organizations like the Financial Services Control Authority. You can always Google. You can even walk into the bank. As simple as all that, So unfortunately, Stokvel, are vulnerable, and people just feel that, they want to, maybe the easy way of making money quicker. In this instance, if it was vouchers, they probably thought, yes, it's one way of saving money so that at the end of the year, they can be able to, to buy groceries. But check who that person, even myself, I always say, I may be Ubusi, who's like, the Stokvel guru, as they call me, but what are my credentials? Check me out, vet me, So members need to vet one another. It is, long gone are the days, we know that we live in different times now. Kala ama Stokvels, Bebuk Tembana, neighborhood and all that, but even your very neighbor, your very friend, how much can you trust your friend? So let us not assume because we are colleagues, because we are neighbors, and everything is okay. It may not be okay, because people are going through different financial challenges, and they end up being tempted to actually cheat their fellow Stokvel members.
Speaking of regulations, are Stokvels that hold less than 100,000 rands of member contributions regulated?
Unfortunately, there is no regulation when it comes to Stokvels, the traditional way of Stokveling. I'm saying that in a sense that if you and I start a Stokvel today with two other friends, all we have to do if we want to open a bank account, we'll walk into the bank, we'll go through the normal banking system of opening that bank account. Irrespective of how much you want to invest, to save or to invest in that account, we will fall within the banking system. There is no one who will come and say, but you should not have gone to bank X and saved 100,000, for example, or 1 million for that matter. The bank will actually check us. I mean, where do you guys get this 1 million rands to come and open up a bank account? So it is a myth to say that if a Stokvel has more than 100,000 rands, has to subscribe to Entity X. It is not true.
With your experience then and knowledge, Mambusi, can Stokvels be regulated?
I don't think Stokvels need to be regulated. They need an enabling environment. Already there is regulatory framework. For example, if we want to start a business Stokvel, and I'll make an example with the popular one now, which is property, we will register a company. As soon as you register a company, automatically you fall within the South African regulatory framework. So to me, that's regulation enough. So I do not understand why we should even be thinking about Stokvels need or should be regulated. Because, of course, we know that there's a national credit NCR. I mean, if we start lending out money outside, we are, of course, outside the realms of law in that we are not allowed to go and be short-term credit offers without complying with the law. So the legal framework is there, but of course, people are human. They'll still go out and do abomashonisa and Stokvels. You know, that has been happening and it's still happening. So in my view, there is no need to now come up with a piece of legislation that is going to regulate Stokvels. What is needed is education. You know, we need to educate Stokvels to protect Stokvels from themselves and from the external people who are seeing them just as a low-hanging fruit to make quick bucks.
And how much of a recourse then, Mambusi, do people have when they are cheated within their Stokvels by a member who disappears with money? Is it then just the matter of going to the police, reporting that person, and that's that?
I think they would go if they have enough evidence that Ubusi has stolen our money. That is theft, and they will have to explain, how did I steal that money? How did that money land in my hand? I mean, end up in my bank account. For example, there are Stokvels who deposit money into an individual's bank account. If we are a Stokvel and then you deposit money into my account, I mean, surely, I mean, that's stupid enough. So that money technically is my money because it's in my personal account, as opposed to us opening a Stokvel account. And if, for example, I mean, our agreement, the constitution, I mean, which is a basic document that Stokvels draft amongst themselves, says today Ubusi is going to get 5,000 rands, and then Busi next time, you know, the ring goes on, and then Ubusi does not honor her obligation. There is a small claims court, but that, again, it has got limitations. That is why we say Stokvels need to be very cautious. How much money do they expose to an individual Stokvel member or an outsider who's likely to run away with? I mean, the small claims court, I don't know much about the nitty-gritties, but I know it is an entity that can at least help you to retrieve a portion of the money that you've lost.
All right, Busi Skenjana, always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time and for those nuggets of wisdom when it comes to Stokvels in South Africa. That was Busi Skenjana, founder of the Stokvel Academy.